Good afternoon. The date is March 15th, Sunday at 4:56 p.m. This is the Hybrid Attorney podcast, hosted by Devin Thorpe and Austin Marler. I'm Austin Marler.
And I'm Devin Thorpe.
I hope the people know that that is the best opening we're ever going to get on one of these episodes. But this week, Devin and I decided to delve into a much easier topic than last week, where we had to put a lot of thought into this. Devin had to do a ton of research and had to inform me of all the things that I did not know with the Nuremberg trials. But this week, we're just doing something simple called giving the top 5 of our favorite books of all time. And I guess I will start off, Devin, and say I got dibs on the first 5 books of Red Rising series. I'm done.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about that merch that you and I are both wearing in lieu of this episode.
That's a bad look. That's almost like we planned it, but we didn't. So the shirt I'm wearing is from the series Red Rising, and Devin. They're both from the series Red Rising by Pierce Brown. It's probably safe to say that Red Rising is our favorite series. I'll be honest to say, Devin did put me onto this, and I almost didn't even dive into it. I was already living on his couch trying to read this book, and I got like 30 pages in, and I was like, this shit sucks. And tried to stop reading. He's like, dude, just keep going. And I'm glad I did, because it ended up being the best series I've ever read.
I had to basically beg you to pick it back up, though. I want to say you left it sitting there for like 3 months. Have you ever seen that picture of the guy like mining for diamonds, and he's like an inch away from hitting diamonds?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like turning away in disappointment. That was what you were missing out on by putting away Red Rising and not pushing past the first 50 pages.
Without further ado, let's get Mr. Thorpe. Let's get your first one. Are you going in like an order?
Wait, are you doing your top 5 like favorite books, or are you just doing like top 5 books that have had an impact on your life?
Oh, I'm doing top 5 favorite books.
Okay, that's fine.
What are you doing? Top 5 books that have an impact on your life?
I think it's similar to favorite books, but I would say that some of these books are not like the best books I've ever read, if that makes sense. I don't know.
So we got 2 different top 5s going into this.
Yeah, I'll explain as we go. If you want to give your honorable mention, number 6.
Which one do I want to be the honorable mention?
Yeah, are you going to present these in order?
I don't even have them ranked. I don't even know how to rank them. Okay. I just had like an idea of the books that I wanted to talk about, and I'm not able to put them in order other than what my favorite one is.
Also, speaking of books,
I'm just going to do a top 6.
Before you present this, look at this book nook that Christina built. It's like the inside of a library, and it lights up. And it
it's the one you were showing me on FaceTime the other night, isn't it?
Yeah, it just serves as a reminder of the kind of library that I'll never have, but that I'll always yearn for secretly.
That's what I do for like the first 5 minutes that I have any of those YouTube things on my TV, like the background Dark Academia stuff that has a like stormy nook under a staircase. I'm like, that's a sick staircase, or a sick like library under the staircase. And I'll just sit there and look at it for like the first 5 minutes before I even start reading.
It's just a picture of the Dudley's house after Harry moved out to Hogwarts, and how they remodeled his room into a library.
It's like in the middle of the ocean, like looking out. There's all kinds of different ones I look at. Also, Bambi may be a menace this episode. I have the blinds partly open. That's why you can hear her whining, probably. Bambi, come here real quick. Make an appearance on the podcast. Oh, look at that. Look at that little baby.
It's a good-looking gal.
Over here. Look over here. Let the people see. Okay. She just got fed,
honorable
so
mention.
She was gonna be... Actually, I'm going a different way. Let's both start by talking about the book that we're both currently reading.
Are you reading what I'm reading?
You're reading?
Okay.
No, I'm reading a different book. But before we get in our top 5, let's start with the books that we're currently reading.
That's easy enough, because this is actually number 1 on my list, and if I were to rank it. And if you take a look at my Red Rising collection, there's one missing currently, and that would be what, Austin?
Lightbringer.
This is number 1 on my list. I've not finished it. However, on my Kindle, it indicates that I am at about 80% of the way through, so I feel like that's far enough to come to the conclusion that it's my favorite of the series, but the series itself is also my favorite series at the same time. I don't even know how to put into words what this series is about.
It's a tough one to describe. Like on the front of Red Rising, it always says, like in the copy that I have, uh, Ender Wiggins meets Katniss Everdeen, so it's saying it's like a combination of Ender's Game and Hunger Games, and I think that's a at least gives you a rough idea of what the genre and the story will be about.
Yeah.
But try and
Oh,
give it a
yeah.
go.
I didn't even say the genre. It's science fiction, not like hard sci-fi that you would find. I would say Andy Weir does hard sci-fi like The Martian and Project Hail Mary. I know that he puts in a ridiculous amount of research at least for his books, but um Red Rising is essentially takes place I think 800 years in the future where humanity is set up in a caste system, a color coded caste system, with reds being essentially the lowest rung of the castes, um, the plebeians, I guess you would say, and golds are at the top. And the whole series is about a red named Darrow who essentially undergoes a super extensive surgery to turn
See,
himself from a
are you even gonna get into that, or are you just gonna be like, he tries to infiltrate the system and tear it up from the inside is how I describe it. That way I
well
don't reveal that
it
aspect of
says
it.
in it says on the blurb of Red Rising that he becomes a gold. So he essentially undergoes the surgery to become a gold, inserts himself into their system. Red Rising tries to rise up through the ranks and flip the whole system on its head. It's one of the only series I've ever read where the first book, especially, it feels like every 10 pages there is a plot twist. I mean, it's the action is so fast paced. Pierce Brown is a magnificent writer, and I could go on and on for days, but I'll shut up there.
Talk a little bit about the community aspect of what he does with this whole series, because I think that's something cool that most of these other series don't have.
Yeah, Austin and I are such big fans that we're part of the Red Rising Discord. This is about to make both of us sound incredibly nerdy, but
I
there's
didn't
a
mean you had
Discord.
to get into this part,
Oh, what did you
but
mean
that's
then?
part of it. I was just talking about, like, how all the giveaways, all the special edition books, all the merch that they do, all the interaction with fans they do, and then I guess essentially the Hazard Bedlam stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to explain Hazard Bedlam, but there's essentially a Discord where you can chat with other Red Rising fans. There's like probably several thousand people that are a part of that. Like Austin said, there's a merch line, both repping it currently, and I would say probably the author Pierce Brown does a really good job interacting with the community, but also his artist Cole, who does like all the internal art and the even the covers themselves. He's like a big part of running operations outside of the books, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's a community where everyone is definitely really weird, but it's like a good kind of weird, if that makes sense.
I agree with that. When I
But
agree with that. I was gonna say it, but I didn't. But yeah, like just going on their Instagram or like the Lit Escalates Instagram, they just do a ton of cool stuff with the Red Rising. They just came out with a new, well, like almost short story on one of the characters from a short story, like comic book thing off of one of the stories from Red Rising that he's kind of getting into now while writing the last book. Also, we're 100% gonna have to clip this and just tag Pierce Brown like free shout outs, giving him the free plug. He's coming
honestly,
out
he
with a
probably
new
will.
edition of the book,
He's liked a couple of my videos.
but I almost put Lightbringer on my list, but I knew it was going to be on your list, so I went with the other one that I think is tied is like 1A, 1B for that series. But the book that I'm reading now before I get in our top six is called Strength of the Few. It's the second book of the Hierarchy series by James Islington. I'm not sure how to say his name. Uh, it's a super dense book. Like both of them are, it's a lot of world building packed into the beginning. And I was slow getting into the first one, but whenever it picks up, it's an unreal story that's trying to tell and kind of like mystery almost that you're trying to solve in the book. But I'm on the second one right now. I'm not going to reveal Annie because it's a pretty big twist that goes from one to two that causes there to be a lot more world building at the beginning of number two, but it's starting to get really good again. But it's basically about it's a similar story where there's someone that's at the very bottom of a society and he's trying to infiltrate it and trying to change it from the inside. Uh, this one has a little bit of a shift to that. There's there's essentially like a country, I guess is the way to put it, that's taken over all other countries, and they've implemented this hierarchy. And he is a prince, or was a prince of one of the last colonized countries. So he's like within this, trying to hide his identity. Uh, it's just really good.
What
I
do you
can't
what do you
describe. Go ahead.
what do you think that says about us that we like stories like that, where it's someone trying to rise through a hierarchy as like a covert agent and infiltrate it?
I think that's just a good story to tell in whatever way. Like it's hard not to root for those kind of people.
In Strength of the Few and Will of the Many, what is wrong with the society itself? Like, I feel like you didn't really say anything to make it feel like it's something worth overturning, and I've not read it, so I actually
Okay.
don't know.
So it's broken into like a pyramid where there's like, I can't remember the exact term for the top ones, but it's like broken into 8 different layers. And it's like Octavii, Septimi, uh, and going up using whatever the Roman language is. And each person higher or at the bottom has to do what's called cede their will to someone higher up in the rung, like in the chain. So they lose like some of their energy, some of their strength, and whatever else. That way, the people at the top of the society are just that much stronger. And they have basically a pyramid below them of everyone that's weaker that's giving them some of their strength. And the main character's whole thing is the country that he was a part of doesn't believe in ceding will. It's totally against that. And most of the conflict in the first book is him trying to prevent that from happening. And another thing that I like about this book, as well as the Red Rising, is there's like an institute part. Like anytime it has one of like an institute or a school, like almost what's the one of, oh, like Ender's Game, Red Rising,
Hunger
Will of the Manny,
Games.
like Hunger. Anytime there's like the institute that you have to go into and train, I don't know why, but those stories always I tend to gravitate towards those stories. But his whole thing is trying to prevent the seeding of will while also trying to solve this mystery. Basically, 2 mysteries going on at the same time. One by his dad that adopted him because the dad like sees like a promise in him to go far, but he's not revealed to anyone who he actually is in the story. Uh, so that there's these 2 mysteries that he's trying to figure out throughout this. And the second one that it springs on you at the end of the first book is unbelievable. Like that alone will get you hooked if you can get to that part. And one thing that this author does a really good job of, similar to Pierce Brown, is like they'll put stuff at the very beginning of books that go like, oh, it's not important, not important, not important. And then he'll tie it back in later. And it'll be such a small thing, like one girl is blind or like doesn't have eyes. And that ends up being super important, like later on. But all right, go to your first book.
Wait,
Let's hear it.
does Will of the Many, is that in your top 5?
I thought about it. That was going to be one of my honorable mentions if I did it, just because of, but with how slow it was at the beginning, I couldn't put it in my top 5.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go with my number 2 then, since Lightbringer was my number 1.
Wait, then I haven't given a book. I'll go first then. Where the Crawdads Sing.
All right. Where the Crawdad Sings. Where is that ranking on your list? Are you starting at 5?
I'm not even ranking because
Okay.
other than my number 1 being number 1, I don't know how to rank it. But this is a story. I picked it up right after I finished To Kill a Mockingbird. It was before I went to law school when I read this, and this, along with To Kill a Mockingbird, were some of the first books that I can remember that like made me cry while reading a book.
That's Red
What?
Rising for me.
Oh, well, I didn't get into Red Rising until later.
Yeah, I'm just saying
But
that's no other book has ever come close, but I've not read Where the Crawdads Sing or um To Kill a Mockingbird.
so you've seen the movie. So it's about this girl who's kind of an outcast in a society along the coast. I believe it's of North Carolina.
Yeah, it is.
But she's an outsider, and the whole point of the book is it's trying to figure out who killed like a local hero, local star, just someone that was very popular in the society, and it goes into the background of her relationship with him and how they interacted, and it just does a really it's just a good book about conflict between people with what I would call an unexpected ending at the end. But you said you called it. whenever you were watching the movie.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Gone Girl or read it?
N- No.
So I've only seen the movie. It's Ben Affleck, one of the best plot twists I've ever seen. But I only mention that because Where the Crawdads Sing is a very similar plot twist as Gone Girl. Okay. My number two, I don't think I've ever told you about this series, Austin. So it's actually something that I actually think you would really enjoy the series, but you might not because of a couple of things. But this is the third book, Emperor of Thorns. The first book is actually my my favorite. It's called Prince of Thorns. So it's a trilogy. Starts with Prince of Thorns, then goes to King of Thorns, then goes to Emperor of Thorns, and it's like um it's fantasy, but it's also post-apocalyptic. Like the kingdoms and stuff in this book take place on Earth, and they never explicitly say what happened, but they make references that there was some sort of nuclear fallout like 1,000 years ago, and they refer to it as like um suns dropping on the Earth or whatever, and so it essentially sends humanity back into a dark age where it's all medieval again. And this takes place so far after all that happened that no one really, there is no mention of America or modern civilization as we know it. It's all make believe fantasy towns and kingdoms and stuff like that. But the reason I like it is because I am much more I enjoy character driven stories as opposed to plot driven stories. And the main character in this is a psychopath. Like he does not feel emotion, and so you start you're essentially in his head because it's first person, just like Red Rising, where it uses I as a pronoun as opposed to third person, and you're in his head, which is the head of a psychopath, and it's one of those things where you'll never read the perspective of a more likable psychopath because he realizes that he's different than everyone else, and um knows how to put on a mask, and even though he's psychopathic still wants to bring about change for the good of humanity. And so in Prince of Thorns, the first book, it's essentially just him with a band of outlaws, adult outlaws, and he's a teenager, and they're essentially just wandering the wastelands, pillaging and doing essentially like what Vikings would do. But by the third book, obviously, like based on the title, he slowly gets more acclaim, gets a city of his own, starts building it up, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, it's a very good trilogy, and the only reason I think that you might not like it is because he is a psychopath.
Why do you think I wouldn't like that?
I don't know. I just I think that because he's a psychopath, he makes some very morally gray choices that would put Darrow or Severo to shame. And I don't know. I feel like you probably wouldn't be fine with his like more evil side or decisions that he makes. But they all make sense in context of the story, if that makes sense.
So long as there's no killing of dogs or animals, I
No,
could probably
there's
move
not.
past it because that's like something I couldn't. I mean, where's it rank like in terms of like Aaron Yeager decision making?
I would say that book one starts off with Aaron Yeager's season three of Attack on Titan. Like that's how this kid starts the very first book, as opposed to being all young and innocent and an optimist like Aaron was in the first season.
I think you'd like Throne of Glass series
I do too. If I could just make it
because like
through Akatar.
there's plot obviously, but the the character development of the main character there, it's elite. All right, you ready for my next one?
Yeah.
The Bible. I'm just kidding. Ender's Game.
I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this because that would not even come close to making my top five.
Ender's Game.
Yeah, but I also read it in middle school, so
See, I'm putting Ender's Game because I'm putting Ender's Game and then the second book in the series. I'm just combining them for this pick. So Ender's Game, it's a society where they're trying to prepare for or they think there's going to be another attack of what they call buggers, which is an alien life form that they had fought against previously. Ender is their best hope at conquering or pushing back the buggers. There is no impending attack at the time. It goes into a lot of character development between him. His interactions with his brother and sister are pretty important early on. And then also his relationship with people whenever he goes to the institute. That's a theme that keeps coming up. Was whenever he has to go to train, he kind of is a unifying presence to all these people that otherwise wouldn't be like elite soldiers or whatever else. And that this is one of the first plot twists at the end of a book that I didn't see coming, like early on. But then the second book in the series, it's at 3,000 years in the future, and it's no longer like a young adult book at that point. It kind of is. He spends like the next 3,000 years being known as what he did at the end of the first book, being known as that, and trying to basically repent against that for the next 3,000 years. How he and his sister are alive, there's some science aspect that I don't remember, but that's going on. But he's spending his time like looking for a new world and teaching new people about the buggers that he thought he had eliminated. And he finds another alien society, and it kind of gets into like deeper aspects of like religious fanaticism and xenocide, because that's the name of the third book, is Xenocide. And it's just got a lot more topics that made me really think than Ender's Game.
Is Xenocide, does that have anything to do with the fact that the enemy is like they have exoskeletons, or am I not understanding what that word means?
I think it's just like a wiping out of a different species. But let me look it up. It's the intentional extermination of an entire alien species.
Okay.
Because, like, I guess I'll kind of get it. Ender's Game ends with him thinking he wiped out the buggers, but then he finds the queen that had been speaking to him. So he spends the next 3,000 years with her egg trying to restart her civilization, but then they find another civilization that is at risk of being exterminated, and he has to kind of make the decision of whether to protect humans, whether to restart the buggers, or whether there's just a lot of conflict going on at this time.
Is it humanity that's trying to exterminate this other species?
Yes, because this other species, they're called, God, I can't remember what they're called. Oh, piggies. They're called piggies. And they ended up killing the doctor that was like part of whatever the little society on whatever planet it was. And it kind of brought out this whole thing where they ever wanted to kill this alien species for killing a human. And then Ender is there trying to figure out why they killed him, what killed him, what's kept these piggies like stuck here. They're an intelligent alien life form, and there's a lot that goes into it. I can't even go into all the aspects because I'm 100%
So,
forgetting something.
100%.
100%.
Is last question that I have. You put the first two, does it just get bad after?
The third one's also good. The fourth one I couldn't even finish. It just
There's
gets
5, right?
too much 5 in that, and then there's a whole other sub series that's Ender's Sun or Ender's Shadow that I've not read any of those. But the first 3 of Ender's Game really good. The fourth one, it just gets too into like the deep problems that it kind of sets up in 2 and 3. And it just got to where I was like, I can't enjoy reading this right now.
Okay. Well, then I feel
Orson
like
Scott's Guard, shout out Greensboro, North Carolina.
20 minutes down the road from me. So going off of that, I have a book that's identical to that, where I love the first 2 books and I can't stand the rest of the series. And that is Dune, where you can literally see the tabs. Like I annotated this book, and I don't normally annotate fiction. Um, just an absolute elite movie, and honestly, I would say one of the better movie adaptations I've ever seen in terms of like it adhering to the source material. And so this book is good. The second one is also good, but then, like you said, similar to Ender's Game, it just completely loses the plot and everything that made it special, and goes down some really weird turns. And I might revisit it because I read it when I was younger. I might revisit it at some point and see if there's just something that I was not old enough or wise enough to appreciate about the other books. But yeah, I feel like I don't even really need to explain Dune. It's like considered a classic in the science fiction genre, similar to Ender's Game.
That's one that I've never read after watching the 2 movies. a month or two ago. I was like, that might be a series to pick up and read.
Yeah, if you did decide to do that, I would like to know because I'd probably like to do a reread, and I would like to make it past the second book because previously I read the second book and then I started the third, lost interest, and just didn't keep going. But I'd also watch YouTube videos about where the series goes in general to see if I should pick it back up. Um, Honestly, that might be a good read after I finish Lightbringer. But all right,
I have so many
that
things
was
on my
my number
TBR.
3. I know. That's why I'm
This one's gonna
surprised
be
that
a
that's why I'm surprised you
you
don't have Goodreads, like, as to, like, track what you want to read, what you're currently reading, and what you have read in the past.
just keep it all in the dome. So there's 100% some that'll slip through the cracks. This one will be a quick one. The OG Harry Potter Goblet of Fire, the best movie and book from the whole series.
Is the book close to the movie in that one?
I mean, they're all none of them are exactly close because they cut out a ton
I remember
from the.
remember Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets being very close from the page to the movie.
I mean, the first four, I couldn't give you the exact answer. I just remember there's stuff that they leave out, but I haven't read it in a while. Before law school, I thought I was going to read through all of them, and I think I stopped at 4 on my reread. One thing about this that I think why it's always been one of my favorites is the competition aspect of the Triwizard Cup.
The Institute?
I mean, Hogwarts is an institute,
Yeah.
but no, growing up, like my entire life was literally sports and just reading random books. So like the sports aspect of like that's why I loved Quidditch. And then whenever this book kind of introduced the Triwizard Cup, where it's a competition between schools, I think that's why it'll always be one of my favorite. And Cedric Diggory is a savage character.
But yeah, go ahead and show your tattoo of the. That's nice.
Quidditch, and then got the Deathly Hallows.
You might need to get that re-inked. It looks like it's starting to fade.
It's actually not compared to some of my other tattoos. Like the one on my back is translucent at this point.
That one is cooked.
That one's
You
gone.
don't even need
Getting it burnt 2 or 3 times in the first year, cooked it.
You don't even need to get laser removal for that. I mean, you just go out in the sun a couple more times and it'll be gone.
Oh, one thing I will say about Harry Potter, least favorite main character out of any of like the stories or like series that I like.
You got to read ACOTAR then, because I can't stand the main character.
Harry Potter's literally just useless. Like he can't do anything. He's not good at anything.
I would disagree with that, but
What's
then
he
again,
good at? The power of friendship.
Well, I mean, does he not defeat he who shall not be named?
Yeah, he sucks.
Well, yeah, you wanted Voldemort to rise back to power.
No, I didn't want that. But like he's just
So who is the secret goat of Harry Potter then? Neville Longbottom?
Luna Lovegood. That is my favorite character.
Why?
The girl who can see like thestrals and stuff. She's just cool. She loves the animals. Like Luna Lovegood, Hagrid, and Sirius Black are my top 3. Dobby actually, but no, Dobby's got to be up there.
He doesn't do
My boy.
anything.
What? He does more than Harry.
Master gave Dobby a sock. Or no, Harry gave Dobby a sock.
No, Master, because
It's
he tricks
Master?
Lucius into handing it to him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
What feedback is she giving?
She told me to do my Miss Weasley. Where have you been? No car? No note? You could have died.
Please never do that again. It must just be a redheaded trait.
Ginny, darling, how are you?
Who's your favorite character from Harry Potter? Or Christina's a Harry Potter fan. Who's her favorite character?
Who's your favorite character?
Harry.
She said Harry, like a freaking basic person, basic reader. I would probably go either Sirius Black because he's a werewolf. No, he's a shapeshifter, and I don't like how they make that distinction in Harry Potter. I also other than just the plot itself. What I hate about Twilight is that they make a point in the final book to essentially say, no, we're not werewolves, we're shapeshifters, which I just like call BS on, because if you're a shapeshifter, it would imply that you can shape or you can shift into some other shape other than a wolf, but they
He's not a
can't.
wolf. He's a little
Who's
black
not?
dog. The werewolf is Lupin.
No, I'm talking about Twilight.
But you said Sirius as well.
Yeah, but in Harry Potter is yeah, that's what I was saying is they make the distinction or they say that or Sirius Black is a shapeshifter and Lupin is a werewolf and I get that cuz obviously anatomically they are very different when they shift, but I'm just saying in Twilight they are very much wolves and that's the only thing they can turn into, but they make the point in the last book of Twilight to say we're not werewolves, we're shapeshifters.
Number 4, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. That's a good one.
Yes.
Haven't read it.
Yeah, this is so I've read all of Game of Thrones, including all of the anthologies, which is House of Fire and Blood and Night of the Seven Kingdoms. This is by far my favorite, and Fire and Blood is probably my second. And I don't know, I just like how concise it is. It is just 3 short stories about a knight named Sir Duncan the Tall, and Homeboy is an absolute unit. He's honorable. He's one of the only honorable knights that I've ever met in the Game of Thrones series, other than maybe Jon Snow and Eddard Stark. Was that his father's name? Eddard? Those are like the only honorable knights that I would say are in Game of Thrones.
What about Barristan Selmy?
So Duncan the Tall has more chivalry in his pinky finger than Barristan Selmy has in his whole body.
I mean, that's just bold. I'm putting Barristan Selmy up there. First nonfiction book to make the list. It takes what it
I,
takes.
I don't think you and I have ever talked about that. I've never even heard of that.
I talked about it briefly with you, saying it's one of the books that I wanted to reread for one of my weeks. It's just another way of thinking to try to help you get through problems in life, how to succeed. Uh, like it's essentially stoicism without using the word stoicism. Like on the front it says how to think neutrally and gain control of your life. And then I was rereading the inner binding and it says something that I don't exactly agree with. His own special talking about this author. His own special innovation, it's a non-judgmental, non-reactive way of coolly assessing problems and analyzing crisis. A mode of attack that offers luminous clarity and supreme calm in the critical moments before taking decisive action. Does that sound similar to anything else that we've discussed on this podcast? Maybe multiple weeks on this podcast.
Yeah. I would be surprised if he doesn't. I would be surprised if he doesn't mention stoicism a single time. That seems like it would be plagiarism.
He's saying, or on the indoor cover, his own special innovation. But I like the way that this one, like I've read a couple of like self-help books or whatever else, but this one is probably my favorite out of those. It was a tie between this and Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. But
That book is just
I feel like
absolutely insane.
But I feel like if we're on a podcast to bring up Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, it's just a tough look to recover from.
That is also true.
So I went with It Takes What It Takes.
Do you think you could run 70 miles with no prep?
Buddy, I can barely make it up and down the stairs with no prep.
Okay. I'm gonna plug my last one and then say my honorable mention because I don't have a ton to say about either one. Split at my number 5 is both Animal Farm and 1984 by George Orwell. Both super fast read. Have you read both or either of those?
1984.
But you've not read Animal Farm?
I've never
Dude,
even
Animal
heard of
Farm.
Animal Farm.
Really? Animal Farm, depending on the day or how I'm feeling, might actually be better than 1984. But yeah, I don't even really feel like I need. Those are such well-known books and such classics. I feel like I don't even need to go into them. But I would say that I read the time in my life when I read those was when I was playing college lacrosse and my coach was super tyrannical and I was having a difficult time coping with that and everything that came along with it. And when I say tyrannical, I mean like threatening to take kids' scholarships away, like just a bunch of messed up stuff that created a lot of fear and anxiety in our lives. And I remember reading 1984 and the government that was involved in that, and just the fact that George Orwell wrote a story that felt like what I was going through didn't make my life any better, but it at least made me feel seen and heard. And then Animal Farm is essentially a bunch of like all of the animals on a farm essentially gain the intelligence of a human and it's all about how over time they all fall into different roles and how it's the pigs who slowly start to take control and are like making all the other animals do work for them, but the pigs themselves are not doing any work, which is symbolic, obviously, of a much greater political statement that he's trying to make. But it's only like 80 pages, I think. Super fast read, but it's actually a really good story.
Might have to look into that. Golden Sun.
Okay, go ahead and just
Pierce Brown.
go ahead and summarize the whole entire series for us again because I would like to hear about it.
One thing that we didn't talk about that I do want to bring up is how good the side characters are in this series. Like the villains in this are some of the best I've ever read. Like some of the accompanying characters are probably deeper than just about anything besides Game of Thrones. It's just the way he makes you interact with these characters.
The thing I like about the villains is he takes a Superman approach to the villains where when I say that I mean like Superman has always has an intellectual villain and a like an overpowering strength villain. So he's got either Lex Luthor or Brainiac, and at the same time he's got Doomsday, who is just an absolute Hulk of a monster. And so at the same time, you've got a character who is both trying to outsmart one villain and overpower another villain. And I would say that Pierce Brown does a good job of introducing both of those kinds of villains throughout this whole entire series. Even when the main character overcomes one of one particular villain, like it turns out that there is another villain that's been lurking in the shadows this whole time.
Who's the powerful villain early on? Because I know who the Brainiac ones are.
I'd probably say in you're talking about the first three.
Mm-hmm.
I would say at first it's Nero, and I would say up until Morningstar it's Cassius.
I agree. I didn't know if you were going to say like the Ash Lord looming behind or would it be like
No,
that
no.
physical one?
I mean, I think each book has a character like I think in Red Rising itself, it's is his name Titus?
Yes.
Like yes, I think it's Titus is the brawny villain that kind of gives Darrow a run for his money. So I think each book has maybe a different brawny one, and then obviously in the newer books, it's Apollonius is a pretty clear, just absolute stud of of like a Herculean type character.
Almost unbeatable. Like no weakness. Like seems
What was
it's hard
his
not to
younger?
like Apollonius.
What's his younger brother's name? That's I thought I was getting that mixed up with Titus. What is the younger brother's name?
It starts with a T as well.
I know.
It's I want to say Tharsis, but it's not Tharsis. It's
No.
is it his dude, what is his name? It's not Titus. There's a second T somewhere in the middle of it. T-A something T.
Look it up on your computer because that's going to bother me.
It should be at the very beginning of this book. Tactus.
Tactus. Thank God. I'm glad that you remember that. You found that in the book.
I I'm like, he's got to be in the first 2 pages on this bad boy. But Tactus is younger brother. All right,
All
go
right.
to your
So
honorable mention.
all right. What is it about Golden Sun that puts it above the rest? I mean, it's up there for me, like 1A, 1B, like you said as well. But I would just be curious to know what it is that puts it over the rest for you.
Plot twist at the end. Just the way that they go about that. I was talking with Sage about this the other day because he just finished it. I'm like, just the way that I'm not going to say who, but the way that those characters die without like any sort of like a last stand. It's literally just like these are characters that have been built up and then donezo. Like they don't get to have their hero moment, nothing.
I was just gonna say I feel like Pierce Brown is definitely someone who's not afraid to kill off a main character.
Oh, he did multiple main characters right there. But between that, the fight scene between Darrow and Cassius, and like that whole build up between Darrow and Nero, like that whole dialogue is just unreal to me. And then what else happens in this one? But like those are the two things that are sticking out like in my mind. It's the
It's just
ending
peak
and then
fiction.
all right, go to your honorable mention. And then I've
My
got
honorable
one book.
mention. My honorable mention is Othello. Did you have to read that in high school?
Othello, I've never even heard of it.
Not Othello. Othello.
Othello? Definitely never heard of that.
You have not heard of Othello
I hear her
by
giggling in the background. This is the last time she's allowed on the audio of the podcast. She's giggling in the back.
what? You've never heard of it?
No, Othello. Oh, LLO.
Bells.
No, I've never heard of this.
It's Shakespearean. And I'm not someone who is like a Shakespeare diehard fan that's gonna jump up and down about him, but this is the reason I think I love Othello so much is because I had to read it my sophomore year of high school, and as I was reading it, I was like, "This seems very familiar to me, and I feel like I've seen this story played out before." Come to find out, it's essentially the plot of Revenge of the Sith in Star Wars, where Othello is the main character, Anakin, and he's got someone in his ear, which is the side character Iago, and that's Darth Sidious and or Palpatine in Star Wars. And essentially, Iago makes Othello think that his wife is having an affair on him with someone named Cassio. And you get to the point in Revenge of the Sith where Anakin's on Mustafar, Obi-Wan comes out of the ship when Padme's talking to him.
Or a farming.
Yeah, and Anakin yells at him, he's like, "You turned her against me, blah, blah, blah." And, like, that's what sends him over the rails. In the shortest way I can summarize Othello, it's essentially the plot of Othello is, like, Othello loves his wife Desdemona. Iago makes him think that she's cheating on him, and it essentially leads to Othello killing Desdemona, just like Anakin did. And I had seen Revenge of the Sith much earlier in life before I read Othello, but when I read Othello, I was, of course, like a sophomore, really stubborn, didn't enjoy reading at this time. But as I got into it, I was like, damn, this seems super familiar to me. Like I've seen this plot before. And then I learned that George Lucas like did heavily incorporate and rely on that as a part of writing the script for Revenge of the Sith.
I wonder if that's going on and influenced Pierce Brown.
I was actually thinking of that a little bit today, but we can discuss that on FaceTime.
All right, last book, another nonfiction, Big Data Baseball.
Big Data Baseball. I never even heard of that.
That just it's a super nuanced book. Like it's by a guy who dives like super deep into the analytics of baseball. But he wrote a book about the Pittsburgh Pirates of all teams and how they kind of turn things around using analytics. And whenever I coached at like Mars Hill, I was obsessed with this stuff. So it's always stuck with me was this book being like one of the better ones I was reading at the time. He goes into all the advanced stats and advanced things that like the scouting department looked at, the front office was looking at and signing players, and how they could do small things that wouldn't show up as much like in a box score or that would impact winning over the course of a season or multiple seasons. I was obsessed with this when I was coaching. Like I didn't care about the games when I was coaching. I was cared about like the trainings or like the training stuff, the weightlifting stuff, and the analytics side of everything. Like
How
me
did
and
you
Buns were
turn?
trying. Go ahead.
How did you go? I've never asked you this. How did you essentially go from coaching college baseball to wanting to go to law school?
So I was a history major. I thought I wanted to teach and coach. I was finishing up my fourth year at Mars Hill, and I decided I wanted to come back for a fifth. I was like, I need to add a minor, so I added a political science minor. I had a couple of classes with Hahn and John Rose, and Heather Hahn actually suggested, have you thought about taking the LSAT and going to law school? I was like, no, never considered it. Took the LSAT, did pretty good on it, but just set on that score because it's only good for like 3 or 5 years. Didn't really think much of it. After my fifth year, baseball was ended with COVID, so that's when I was trying to play pro or whatever. Did that, nothing came of that, obviously, and then I was like still up around school, like doing my own training, like talking to some of the dudes, helping them whenever I was at the field, and they're like, "Do you want to stay on and coach?" So I stayed, coached for that year. I realized that is not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go teach high schoolers. I didn't want to coach baseball. I didn't want to be involved with that anymore than I had been for that 1 year. So I'm glad I got the experience, but I realized that's not what I want to do moving forward. Then I went and worked at a bank for a year. When I was working at the bank, when I started applying for law school, so I was like, dang, I got this degree, don't want to do anything associated with it. I've got this test score that's about to run out. Let me start applying to these bad boys. And I
So
applied to Campbell.
if you hadn't coached baseball in college, do you think you would have just went and taught and coached at like a high school?
Probably. Like, all I wanted to do up until law school was do something involved with sports.
Are you ever going to coach again?
I would do like training, but it got to the point where I didn't care about the outcomes of games because at that point I can't control anything. You can do what you want. You can call pitches, you can set the lineups, but I enjoyed like the training aspect of it and all like the work that you do outside of the game to try and put yourself in a bad situation to play the game. And I was obsessed with that stuff, with the workout, like planning out your workouts, doing the triphasic training is what we were putting in at that time, all the recovery that you would have to do, timing that up with like the power days of the week. And Buns and I would literally be in the office Sundays trying to create stats, like advanced stats for us to use. Shout out Marcel, they got another ranked win yesterday against number 16 Wingate.
Wingate is number 16.
Usually they're higher.
Is Marcel ranked at this point then?
No, they lost 2-3 to Wingate, but they beat them. So this has to be the most ranked win they've had in a season that I know of. Because they beat LR, Young Harris, Wingate, and I feel like there's one or two more that I'm forgetting.
What is their lineup? Do they just have like crazy good talent?
No idea. Haven't really talked to Buns a ton about it.
All right. Did you prepare a quote for this week?
I did not, but I'm sure I could turn to any page in Golden Sun and get one. That's how elite this book is. While I look for a quote, Christina, give us one book off your top 5.
I don't know. I also really enjoyed Where the Crawdads Sing.
Well, we already covered that, so you got to pick a new one.
I have to pick another one? Okay. This is going to sound really basic.
Can I guess it?
Yeah.
It Ends With Us.
No.
Is it a Colleen Hoover book?
No, not anymore.
Did I catch you?
No. I was actually going to do Verity.
I was between It Ends With Us and Verity.
That's a Colleen Hoover one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about it.
About Verity? Okay, so the general consensus is it's kind of like The Housemaid, if you've seen it, which I don't think you have. Bad Sydney Sweeney fan. So basically this girl, I read it a really long time ago, so I'm a little blurry on the details, but she like moves into this guy's house and his wife is named Verity, and Verity is like bedridden and like basically can only move her eyes from what I remember. Are you Googling something?
I'm looking for my quote and I've got it.
Okay. Basically, the girl that stays at the author's house reads one of her autobiographies, and it like tells a completely different story than what she's realizing in reality. And it was the first thriller I've ever read, and so it was just my favorite.
Reads one of Verity's autobiographies?
Yes. And like her autobiography tells a completely different story than what is being portrayed in real life to Lowen, the main character. So it's just like you have to, and at the end, you basically have to figure out which one you choose to believe because you never figure out like what is accurate. And they're making it into a movie.
That actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it is really good. Anne Hathaway and Dakota Johnson are going to be in the movie. It's supposed to come out in May, actually. It's really good. It is the first thriller I've ever read, and so it just was my favorite because it's what really got me into thrillers.
Are all of her books thriller?
No.
They're romance.
Most of them aren't, actually.
The only ones I've read are romance. But those are good. Like they're good romance.
Ain't nothing wrong with a good little smut book every once in a while.
I wouldn't even categorize them as smut, would you?
Mm-mm. No.
I thought that was her genre.
No, it's just like romance, but it's not smut.
I don't know why I didn't think of this quick to begin with, but it's...
Hold on. I gotta get...
She's taking the mic from me.
I gotta get Christina's breathing off the podcast.
What?
It's the first words from the book, and it's like going viral right now on all of Red Rising Instagram reels. What is it?
From Golden Sun?
No, from the whole series.
Is it the one about men being created equal?
No. I would have lived in peace, though my enemies brought me war. That's just such a sick quote.
Yeah. I mean, that would summarize Darrow's whole life.
I know.